The spars have a job to do too. Perhaps our jobs are not, for the moment, so exciting as sending a depth charge over a cutter's side or seeing a telltale oil slick rise from a blasted sub, but they are vital jobs which must be done.
Spar means semper paratus, always ready. And I was very happy to be a spar.
That's why you join the spars. Basic training doesn't take long, only a month, and your pay begins at once. You learn to take orders and to carry them out.
I felt as though I was doing something for my country.
Then, almost before you know it, you pass in final review. No longer a boot, a full-fledged spar.
I was born November 4th, 1914, many, many years ago, on Staten Island, New York. And my parents were Norwegian immigrants. I had 3 brothers and a sister, and one of my brothers died. Then I do remember the end of the war, and I remember lots and lots of noise, everybody hollering, and that was the end of World War I. I didn't graduate from high school. My father had died when I was 13 years old, but then I went to a secretarial school, and I graduated from that. And I started working at the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company when I was 17. That was in Manhattan. At that time, there was quite a feeling of doing something for our country, really. A friend of mine had joined the Waves. I thought, well, it sounds like a nice idea. So I said, well, which one should I join? I thought I would walk up Broadway, and the first place that recruited, that's the one that I will go in and see what happens. So it happened to be the Coast Guard, and then they told me about the spars. I thought, well, sounds like a good idea. I was 28 when I enlisted in the Coast Guard, and that was 1943. They gave me books to read to find out what it was all about, and that was I guess in July. So October is the time that I went in the service. I met 3 of the girls at Grand Central Station, and we went down to boot camp down in Palm Beach, Florida. It was 1944 that I went down to boot camp. They put us on a bus and then took us to the Biltmore Hotel. And we met with many, many other girls who wanted to be spars. And we were given a room with 6 to a room with 1 bathroom. And we were at boot camp for 6 weeks. I really, really enjoyed it right from the very beginning. I met so many wonderful girls, and they were my friends right through the whole time that I was in the service. We had a choice of what we wanted to do, and I figured storekeeper would be right down my alley because I had gone to school for typing and stenography. And when I graduated from storekeeper school, I had a choice of where I should go, and one of the choices was Cleveland. And I thought, well, it sounds like a nice place, so that's where I'll go. And what happened was a few of my friends were going there too, so that made it that much nicer. I was in the 9th District office in Cleveland. My duty there was mostly office work.
General Eisenhower informs me that the forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations.
When we heard it was VA, right away the president spoke to us, and then everyone was really excited. And we started ripping up all these papers and throwing it out the windows, and Euclid Avenue, it was filled with people throwing things out the window, and so it was a very exciting time. I had been dating a fellow, and we started writing, and we both felt as though we were made for each other, so we decided to get married. And Ken was in the Merchant Marines. He was going to a school for up in Boston at the time. He became a radio operator. And Ken and I got married March the 10th, 1945. In order to wear a white dress, I had to have permission. At that time, we just wore our uniforms, and we just couldn't wear anything else at that time. After we got married, I had to go back to Cleveland, and he had graduated from this special school, and he was assigned to a special ship, and the ship went back and forth to England and Italy, and the Germans were still underneath shooting. It was sort of hard for me, to know that he was sailing in these dangerous waters. I didn't see him then for, about a couple of months after we were married. And I couldn't be in New York when the ship came in New York. So we decided if I could possibly change my duty to New York City, it would be more convenient. And I had to try to get someone in New York City who would want to come out to Cleveland. And it just happened that there was one girl that had been trying to come to Cleveland. So we changed places, and it worked out very nicely. I was discharged in May of 1946, and it was a happy day. And Ken had been discharged, so we could be together. We had 2 boys and a girl, and I have 9 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren. Ken and I were married for 63 years, and he left me. And I still miss him. Faith was my life. And just knowing that I could depend on God to be with me wherever I was. It was a wonderful feeling that I was able to do something for my country, and learning that there were others that were in the same position as me. But then I was thinking of all these soldiers that gave their lives, and I was thinking, well, all I did was sit in an office. I know I was needed, but the ones that should have been honored were those men and women who went across. And they actually, somebody died for our country. Belonging to the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard meant so much to me at that time, and still does. I have so much pride in the Coast Guard now. Even when I hear stories about them on television, I realize they're doing a wonderful job.
The flag is carried by our ships in times of war and peace, and never have we struck it yet in spite of foemen's.
Join the spars and release a man for sea.
It was a good feeling that maybe I did something right, you know?
I'm Bill Casassa. Used to be with the 638th Tank Destroyer Battalion. We were attached to 84th Infantry, 4 campaigns in Europe.
We were equipped with the M18 Hellcat tank destroyer, and I spent most of my military or my combat experience serving on an M18, although I also served on some other units, a security unit within the platoon.
From deep in the heart of Texas comes a stab in the heart of enemy tank columns. Tank destroyers, developed in increasing numbers, have helped destroy the myth of the vaunted Nazi Mark 6 Tiger tank. No tank can...
I enlisted in the Army on, I believe it was the 23rd of July, 1943, and wasn't called up for active duty until early in February 4th, I believe it was, of 1944. When I arrived in North Camp Hood, Texas, we were greeted by a sign which said in huge letters, North Camp Hood, Texas, Tank Destroyer Casualty Replacement Training Center. And that was the unhappy introduction that they provided us at that time. I was assigned as assistant driver on an M18 tank destroyer, known as the Hellcat.
This vehicle was designed to move very, very rapidly, strike preferably from the side, even better from the rear if you could do it, and puncture German armor that way.
I wound up in 638th Tank Destroyer Battalion in Camp Gruber, Oklahoma, and the unit was training for 6 or 7 weeks there in Camp Gruber, and then we got on the train and went to Camp Kilman, New Jersey, where after about 4 or 5 days, we got on the Liberty ship that was designed to carry troops or anything else for that matter. Went to sea, and the following day at sea, I had my 19th birthday. We landed in the harbor at Cherbourg. It was actually a constructed harbor. And moved up into northern France, into the assembly area for the attack on Germany, because we were going to attack into Germany, into the Siegfried Line.
The Allies attack all along the Western Front through the Dragon's Teeth of the Siegfried Line in an advance which takes them to the Rhine.
The town that we were attacking, or the city that was in the area of our attack, was Geilenkirchen. On the 17th of November, we went into the line and attacked on the 18th of November. That was 1944. And we'd never seen a splash of blood in our lives. So, and there's no substitute. There's no way they can prepare you for combat. It just can't be done. Late in the day of December 16th, we heard a rumor the Germans had broken through a big attack down in Belgium. On the 17th, we got confirmation that the Germans had launched a major attack, and they were chasing us back, and troops are running, and units are throwing down their guns, and all sorts of bad stuff is happening. And we were, I believe, the first units from the 84th to pull out of the line too and go down into Belgium. So we go roaring down to Belgium, and we did roar. I mean, those M18s will haul ass. They really will pull. And didn't know where we were going, and nobody knew where they were going. Civilians, old men, women, children, babies, baby carriages, endless streams of them going down the side of the road. It was total bedlam. The last thing that I recall before Christmas was we were south of Roquefort, I believe was the name of the town, and I was a machine gunner at this point. Because once you stop, if you're going to be in a fixed position, you take the .50 caliber machine gun, you set it up so that you can keep enemy foot soldiers away, because we have an open turret on the tank destroyer.
As you can see, it's an open turret, so anybody with a mortar, we were a sitting duck for them. Anybody within grenade range, we were a sitting duck. Anybody who could get within 100 yards for a Panzerfaust or any other type of bazooka, go through this like a tin can.
It was 10 days of being on the defensive. Starting at the first of the year, December 1945, we went on the offensive. And we pinched it off the city of Houffalize in Belgium. We crossed the Ruhr early in February. We attacked on the other side of the town was Korenzig. Actually, when we attacked Korenzig, we made a left turn, literally a left turn, and we stopped and we were in Bale. And we had a very busy night, I might add. The Germans counterattacked. They had hammered us good and proper with artillery and mortar fire. And the commanding officer decided that we were going to break. And the result is he called artillery fire down on its own position. I think he did the proper thing, because in the morning when we could see, there were quite a few dead Germans laying around very close and inside our lines. To say I prayed a lot is sort of a masterpiece of understatement. When artillery fire is bouncing you up and down, where it's so close you can feel the heat, and you haven't been turned into a piece of red lace, you pray a lot. At least I did. We fought up to the Rhine River, and we fought from the Rhine to the Elbe River. The worst day of the war for me, personally, and for some of my closest, was April 8th, the night of April 8th and the morning of April 9th, in a little town called Wietzen. And we took heavy casualties. We took Hanover, which was, I think, the 12th largest city in Germany. And they didn't put up much of a fight. But that was my first personal experience with one of the camps. They had them all over the damn place, and I will never forget that smell. I didn't see the inside of that one. I smelled it. We didn't know what Hitler's people were doing to the Jews. We had no idea that he was mass slaughter, that they were murder factories. That's all they were. They would set up to kill people. I honestly believe that the war would have been fought with a little more enthusiasm had we known what they were doing. When Germany finally surrendered on May 8th, and there was so-called VE Day in Europe, the big celebration we had was we got hot food for the first time in a long time. And we go down to Heidelberg. It's at that point that we learned that the reason we were there is because we were going to France. And the reason we were going to France was we're going back to the States. And then we found out the reason we're going back to the States is that we're going to be given amphibious training and sent for the Battle of Japan. We finally shipped out of Antwerp, and I was home by the second day of August. And so we came directly into Boston Harbor and went on furlough the following day. And about the 15th of August, 2 weeks later, they dropped the bomb. And all of a sudden I got a reprieve. I got discharged actually on, I think, February 2nd of 1946. It was something that had to be done, as simple as that. We all knew that. You know, if we hadn't won that war, the Germans were so aggressive and so adept, and I'm convinced that they would have had the atomic bomb within a year of the end of the war. And if they hadn't had to put up with us and Russia at the same time, they would have had it even earlier. I was a salesman for a candy company in Boston. My territory was including Washington, D.C. Maggie was raised in Washington, D.C., and she was an assistant buyer. I was calling on the candy buyer one day, and either she needed a match for her cigarette or I needed a match for my cigarette. And I saw this cute gal away across the way. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, so I went over and asked if she had a match, and she did. That would be 1953. We were married on June 25th, 1955. We've been married 64 years. We have 4 children, 3 girls, 1 boy. We have 5 grandchildren, and we have 3 great-grandchildren.
Whatever description I've given of this vehicle is simply what I remember. I was not prepared to say what I've said earlier, and I hope that I've covered all the salient features of the vehicle.
The interesting thing about tank destroyers is that they never existed prior to World War II, nor have they existed since that time. Most people have never heard of them, and I hope that some people will learn about them from what I've had to say.
So it's off to the wars for another shipment of tank destroyers. They've passed the most grueling tests. Only the best have survived. And when they reach destinations now veiled in military secrecy, they'll prove their worth through faultless performances.
I've never really thought of it as being proud, but of course I am and have been proud. We did it. I mean, we did it.